It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So my friends, what do you know about the Pennsylvania State Police? Well, today you're going to learn hopefully as much as you can about the men and women of the Pennsylvania State Police. My guest today is Trooper David Peters. He's no stranger to our channel because he does Trooper's Corner, and that's a weekly informational opportunity for you to learn what's happening with the law. Trooper Peters is the Public Information and Community Service Officer in that office. Trooper, thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure to have. Before
I start the show, let me just say this, and I'm not here to patronize you, okay, but I want to tell you that to all the men and women in the Pennsylvania State Police, and to anyone who wears a uniform, okay, should be applauded and respected because, you know, when you got up this morning, or when anyone in law enforcement got up, you know, you're married, you don't know what's going to face during the day because there's a lot of wackos out there today, have no regard for life. And any law enforcement today, okay, particularly anyone, I mean, whether they're state, city, borough, township, etc., I say we should really do whatever we can to help because it's a tough ride. It really is. You know?
Well, thank you.
And I mean that sincerely. I really do, Dave. I mean, you know, you've been great here, and so is your partner. Yeah. It's been great in giving information. And hopefully today we could get a little better understanding of the Pennsylvania State Police, okay? Because some people have different opinions, especially if you got arrested for speeding. You're not that happy.
This is true.
So let's talk about the Pennsylvania State Police. What's the history about?
Well, we've been around since 1905. We were enacted through legislation back in May 2nd of 1905. Really spawned out of the Great Anthracite Coal Strike. Prior to that, the only type of law enforcement was local sheriffs, as well as individuals that were privately owned by the coal companies. And I think what occurred there is most people believed that the coal companies' police for that area were just more biased for the coal companies. So there was a need to have a uniform type of law enforcement. I believe that strike ended with the stepping in of President Roosevelt at the time, and we were created. At that time, we were the first uniformed police organization of its kind, and pretty much modeled for future state organizations to come about.
So that evolved. I mean, it's been so many changes, you know, since I remember when I was in high school and college, the Pennsylvania State Troopers. When did women come into the troopers?
Well, in the initial onslaught of enlistment, only 228 men were taken into the state police. They were single men
for the state of Pennsylvania.
For the state of Pennsylvania, so okay. 228 individuals to police the state of Pennsylvania. And again, they were single men who had to reside at the barracks. I think at that time there was only 4 state police stations in the state. So they cared for the barracks. They ate there. They slept there. And again, they were single. Not up till 1963 did the state police begin to start accepting married men. And I believe in 1971 the first female cadet was accepted into the academy and graduated in 1972.
How many Pennsylvania State Troopers are there in this state?
It's a number that changes. I believe it's over 4,000 now, but again, through retirements and people coming on, it's hard to get that exact quite number. We're never quite up to the full complement that we're given by the legislators, and that's through retirements. You never quite know when someone reaches their time of retirement if they're going to stay or if they decide they're going to go.
Now, you've been in the force how long?
A little over 20 years.
So what changes have you seen in the Pennsylvania State? And then I want to ask about the academy and how does one become a state trooper. What are some of the things that you've seen, Dave, going through the years?
Technology. I think technology, as well as just the training, trying to learn from and adapt to what's changing in society. You hear a lot of things about body cameras, and we have cameras in our cars, and our computers are there, our radio systems are upgraded, different types of defense mechanisms that we have on us. When I came on the job, the taser was not present. And obviously the course of, understanding and people utilizing these types of tools to be an effective way before, going a little bit more hands-on, we came in with the taser.
That leads me to the question that, you know, when I said that you put yourself in harm's way every day, okay, because you could be doing a routine arrest and you have no idea whether this guy's a drug dealer and has drugs and pulls a gun on you and just shoots you, okay? I mean, that's a crazy it is today, okay? So let's talk about the academy, okay? How does one, what are some of the qualifications that one needs to go into the academy?
Well, that would be one of the other changes that I saw. I mean, when I first came on this job, all that was required was a high school diploma. I did have a college education. Now they require at least 60 college credits to be able to apply to the Pennsylvania State Police.
Credits?
Any credits.
Okay.
Now, they have some waivers there. If you're 4 years active military or you are a sworn law enforcement officer for 4 years working full-time, they'll forgive those 60 credits. As long as you have the powers to arrest, detain, that would apply for, I believe, corrections officers, probation, parole, things like that, you can then go ahead and apply. You have to be at least 20 years of age, and you wouldn't be able to receive your appointment to at least the age of 21, and we don't accept anybody who would have turned 40 prior to their enlistment date, if I understand. They have to be 40 at their enlistment date.
Okay, so you're accepted in the Pennsylvania State Police. What is the training like?
Intense. Very intense. It's designated in a way to, not allow individuals who aren't mentally prepared, knowledgeable, willing to work hard, not get through such a thing. You run every day, your physical challenges, you're taught in classrooms, qualifications, you need to qualify with everything that's on this belt. You need to keep your room in strict, inspection type order.
Like
the Army, absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of sleep deprivation, time deprivation, and just reference to your schedule, and trying to keep things up to date, that it causes stress. I mean, you can fail, not make any type of, runs that you're required to make, and, for whatever reason, might not be able to go home on a weekend. That's a privilege in the academy, to go home on a weekend pass to see your family. So, I mean, that could play. Someone who's not been able to go home could struggle more stressfully not being able to do that. But they're looking for that individual that is psychologically and emotionally stable to be able to handle, like I said, the incidents we see on the road. If you can't handle yourself, how are you going to expect to help someone else?
And that's the challenge, I think, and that's any law enforcement officer, the training and the challenges they have. For example, all your gun, the taser. What else you have on you?
I have pepper spray. I have handcuffs. Obviously, a firearm. I have what's referred to as an ASP baton, ASP. It's an expandable baton. We don't carry billy clubs. And then I have extra magazines, as well as a protective vest.
Okay, so now here again, you have to know when to use them.
Sure.
Okay, and this is where judgment comes in. And this is where sometimes you see where, a cop is either arresting someone, maybe physically moving them around, etc. And if the cameras are on, if someone has one of these and they're showing that, it shows it. But with all due respect to all the parties, Dave, you don't know what actually happened there, okay, where that police officer or woman had to do what they had to do.
Sure.
Okay, you're not from start to finish. So that's where I think the training comes in, and what kind of training, do you have to know when to use the taser, when to use the baton, when to use the gun?
Well, that's, again, constant training. We certify every year in the state police with the weapons that are here, so that we're competent in our decision making, as well as just extensive training. Policy comes into play, but really the actions of that individual that we're trying to take into custody is really dictating what type of actions using. Some people just verbally comply. We're placing you under arrest. There's no problem. They understand and they go respectfully and willingly. Some people do not want to be arrested. So based upon their actions to us, raises the level of force that might be necessary to effect that arrest. And we're only going to use the force necessary to effect that arrest. So if somebody's compliant with us, we're not using any of this that we don't need to. There's no reason to do that. But depending on their actions to us, physically trying to attack us, kick us, can result in, but certain things, certain conditions determine whether or not what type of force we can use.
That's why I think really psychological training and knowing what it is, because you really have to be careful these days. I mean, it's unfortunate because people, the cops are doing this and the cops are doing that. Well, when you want protection, you call the cops, okay? And that's why I think it's a challenge.
It is. It has changed. I think a lot of I don't know. We only seem to hear about the negativity from those individuals. I believe, every place that I've ever been out in the community, everybody seems to come right up and thank you for what you do and thank you for service. So I think a lot of people just maybe I don't want to say they took it for granted, but they're not doing that anymore. They are coming up, but one person can have a negative interaction with law enforcement for whatever reason, or something. Yeah, we're average people too. We have bad days.
Well, yeah, and the thing is that the interesting thing is that when I said to you before, you're out in the community, you do the Troopers Corners, you're available to the community, informing them. We'll talk a little bit more about what you do. And then you have maybe one state trooper that has a situation where maybe wasn't good, and it's a negative thing, and it blows all the good things because that person comes and says, what that cop did to me, what that state trooper did to me. Folks, I'm talking to Trooper David Peters. He is the Public Information and Community Service. That's his responsibility. Been in the force over 20 years, Dave?
Yes.
Over 20 years. We come back, we'll talk about some of the things that they do. What about radar? What about scams? And what about some of the things that are safety? All I can tell you is that folks, it's a crazy world today, and anybody who is in law enforcement, I applaud, and you should also help them, do whatever they can. They need as much help as they can. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the Sam Lesante Show, folks. Thank you very much, folks. When my wife and I are around northeastern Pennsylvania, and people come up to us and say, thanks for the local shows. We really appreciate that. Some people like the show. Some people have some comments. We welcome your comments. My email is sam@ssptv.com. Remember, folks, download our app. And the reason I say download our app, and when you get on the app, you'll see all of local programs. Local doctors, informational things that the girls have on, Eye Care Today, Skin Sense, Body Beautiful, a number of programs that we have that affect your lives. This is why I say download local programming. The natural resources tell us that more and more people are watching local neighborhood programs, not watching broadcast and cable networks. That you Google that. So we're proud of that, and we want to be able to provide that information. So it's SSP TV, and if you have a smart TV, people who don't have cable, which you should have cable, search YouTube, search SSP TV, download us, you can watch all our programs. My guest today is Trooper David Peters. He is in charge of Public Information and Community Service for Troop N, does a great job, does a show here called Troopers Corner. We brought that back. So before I get into some questions about what you do, how long is the academy before you become a state?
About 27 weeks.
27 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. Then you graduate and.
Yes, you're sent to an assignment. It could be anywhere in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And then you ride with what we would refer to as a coach, an FTO officer, field training officer. You ride with two of them, one each 30 days. If everything goes well, and then you're on probation until at least a year after that.
How was it with you when you went on by yourself for the first time?
It was different. You ride with somebody for 60 days, and then all of a sudden, you're by yourself, and you're trying to, sometimes you get in that situation where you're kind of
you're nervous.
Yeah, looking for those words of wisdom from your coach, because they always seem to have words of wisdom. So it was different, but you have to make things your own. You have to establish yourself.
They give you an assignment, okay, and you're out, patrolling the roads, okay. So what do you look for? Like when most. When you're patrolling, so you have radar, okay? Let's talk about radar, okay? What kinds of radar do you have, and to keep people safe?
We use there are different kinds of radar. all of which are calibrated. It's given to us by the legislators. Title 75, which is a vehicle code, allows us to use radar. And obviously, it also lets us know that the state police are the only ones that can use handheld radar devices. So we use what we refer to a handheld. So that would be a radar device, obviously, that we could point out the window of the vehicle, open window. We have we called vehicle-mounted radar. Sometimes you see an officer on the side of the road and he has equipment attached to the vehicle. Our speedometers are calibrated to be able, what we refer to as clock someone. So if you say I was in an unmarked vehicle and you were traveling on 80 and you were traveling at a high rate of speed, I can come behind you and I can clock you per my speedometer. And we also have aerial.
So the whole reason here for the radar is to control the speed of vehicles. Why?
Safety.
Okay, and I asked a stupid question, but the point is, for example, if you're in a 50-mile zone and you're doing 80 miles an hour, you're putting people in jeopardy. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now, I don't know what the rule of thumb is, but well, I'll tell you what frustrates me. Okay. Let me get this off my shoulder, being that I have a state trooper here. You're going down a road I mentioned this to you on the phone, and I did call PennDOT. I'm waiting for James to call me back. You're going down a road, it's 4 lanes, it's wide open, and the speed limit's 35 miles an hour. I mean, come on. Yeah, I mean, it's wide. It's not like it's, so you're doing, so most people are doing 50 because, they don't even know they're doing that. Now, there has to be some discretion here. The term of the interstates in some areas raised the speed limit to 70.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, that means that they're safe enough for them to do that. I'm not saying going down at 20, 35 at 70 miles an hour, but is there any discretion here that the police, the law enforcement uses?
Well, every officer has their own bit of discretion in regards to utilizing or pulling a vehicle over, whether that's same thing, it'd be whether to issue them a citation or to issue them a written warning for possibly an equipment violation.
And there's another thing, Peter, that has me upset. Now, here's a person that drives, has a perfect record, okay, and unfortunately, he got a call, he has to rush home for something. He's never broke the law, and he's doing maybe 15, 20 miles over the speed limit, safe conditioning, etc. He gets pulled over, and there's this Pennsylvania state, you were speeding. Yes, I do, but I have an emergency, etc., etc. And it all depends. So where does discretion come in here? So some people, if it's bad outside or slippery weather, I understand conditions. But where is the discretion here? What does a Pennsylvania state trooper or any law enforcement have here?
Everyone has their own individual when they do that. Mm-hmm. Basically, if we're using radar, we by law have to give someone 6 miles an hour over the speed limit on that highway. If it's a speed limit that's posted 55 or below, the law dictates that we have to give someone 10 miles an hour before we pull them. Now that is using radar.
Yeah.
That doesn't include clocking someone. I mean, so any speed limit.
And I think that's reasonable. But sometimes if you have a perfect record, okay, I do feel that, unless the guy's DUI or whatever,
Sure.
I mean, I'm talking about or the woman, but sometimes I think there's where, discretion comes in. Well, when you're out and you're going to speak to different people, when you're talking to seniors, well, and I have we have 100,000 people watch the Sam Lesante show from Harrisburg up to beyond Clark Summit. I'm very proud of that. What do you tell seniors?
Well, a lot of them invite us to talk about different things. It might be just to get to know us in their particular area. They're not familiar with any troopers in there. A lot of about scams, anything that's going on in the area, that may be robocalls or individuals kind of coming up to them asking them if they need their driveway blacktop, roofing things, just to make them more accessible to that information so they don't fall victim to
Well,
that.
I'll tell you, and because the seniors are such nice people, and you're born in northeastern Pennsylvania. We have great people here.
Absolutely.
They're compassionate people. I'm sure your parents were the same way. Someone comes up, they look innocent, and they sell them a bill of goods, and it's very difficult, So you should have a rule of thumb. So when you're talking to seniors, no matter who that person is, what should they do when someone's coming up, knocking on the door, and
Well, they have to. Unfortunately, we have to stop being a little bit trusting. And
Yes.
I think that's the very thing that these individuals play on to our seniors, that they're trusting. And that's that mentality that they're looking for them to be a victim, is trusting them and their willingness to help people. Somebody knocking on the door saying, my car broke down, can I use your phone? And next thing you know, they're in your house, and they assume that elderly individuals don't use banks.
I'll tell you, and it's so easy to do. I mean, they're out there even with young kids. You train your kid, don't take anything from a stranger. But there's maybe a person walking down has a dog or a puppy, and hi, would like to see my dog, and it's tough, boy.
It's the same thing, obviously, with the medications that are going. It's another service that we have out there now, is getting information out to them for the drug take back and things like that. Our stations, Hazleton Station does not have one, but our other stations in our troop have those boxes 24/7 now.
Yeah.
Young people, if they're dealing with a drug crisis, are stealing this medication from their grandparents and such, and it's getting into the wrong hands. And unfortunately, we're losing some young people as a result.
It's overwhelming.
It is.
I'm talking to Trooper David Peters, folks. He's in public information community service in Troop. And as I said in the beginning of the program, folks, anyone who has a uniform on, male, female, give them as much help as they can and respect it. They put their lives in danger every day. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for staying with us, folks. I'm Sam Lesante. You're watching the Sam Lesante Show 24/7, SSPTV.com. All the programs we produce. Download our app, SSP TV. My guest is Trooper David Peters, who is in public information, trooper in community service as well. When the troopers are equipped in their vehicles, if someone's, you arrest someone, if they're wanted in New York or Florida or the state of Washington, how do you know that?
Well, that agency would have entered them into the NCIC database. It's a national thing. So putting the basic information in there, so if they are to have an identification on them and we run them, name and date of birth, it's going to tell us that they're wanted, what they're wanted for. Also, give us some information as to, if they're, what we would refer to as, if they're going to extradite them back. And what the violations were. And also at our fingertips, where we can run someone's criminal history to see if they've ever been arrested in the state of Pennsylvania for things as well.
All right, so that would leads me is when you're calling for backup. Okay, I guess you're still calling for backup.
Sure.
Right? So now you pull someone over, very suspicious. In nighttime, are there always two troopers or one trooper in the car vehicle?
After 11 o'clock, there are two troopers in the car.
Yeah, which I definitely can understand that. But let's assume it's 9 o'clock and you pull someone over and, a little suspicious. Now you find out that this person is wanted for a lot of bad things, maybe murder in New York City or whatever, okay? Now you don't know what you're dealing with, at least, because you don't know that you're going to get there and he's going to pull the gun, because he's already a murderer. He's already, so how do you know what do you do? How do you know when to bring backup in?
Well, you can call for backup whenever you want.
Yeah.
In reference just having another car present. Obviously, the situation that you described, you want power in numbers. You want more eyes on this individual.
Yeah.
You want, we're not invincible.
Yeah.
And our training's going to kick in, our more sense of height awareness for somebody, that information coming back and wanted for murder or, prior murder convictions. This is a bad individual.
Yes.
So we want to get as many people as we can get there possibly to make sure if we're taking this individual in custody, that it's going to go without incident to any one of us, our safety as well as their own.
That person who is bad knows that they're bad.
Yes, they do.
Okay, and they know that when you're in there and you're doing your thing, there's some concerns here as to what's going to happen now. He already knows that I know he's a bad person. Okay, boy, that's where discretion has to come in.
Yeah, that's a difficulty because, again, you just said it. They know they're bad.
Oh, yeah.
And for some cases, they could have just committed a crime, and they think we know they committed that crime. We might have just pulled them over because they were speeding.
Yeah.
So we don't really know. So it's really kicking back on your training and not allow yourself to get complacent, like this is just any other traffic stop. doing what you're taught and having your sense of awareness that if it doesn't feel right, things aren't adding up. This person looks at, you got to pay attention to nonverbals of people.
Oh my God, yes, yeah. Folks, I'm talking to Trooper David Peters, and I said he's in Public Information and Community Service. If you'd like to get Trooper Peters and your friend
Trooper Anthony Petrosky, yes.
He's busy today on another assignment, but they're available for group discussions.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to know about the Pennsylvania State Troopers, or any for that matter, there's a lot of, I know our district attorneys in both counties are always there available to you. Hey, Dave, thanks for coming on the show.
Pleasure having me. Thank you very much.
I could ask you a zillion questions. I know that I was saying, well, ask him this, ask him. Oh, I want a question before. What about quotas? That's what it is, folks. Huh? You think these people, they're told, you better make 100 arrests this month. You guys have quotas that you have to make certain arrests.
No, that is not correct.
That's not.
Traffic citations, everybody always says that, it's the end of the month.
Yeah.
We receive not one bit of funding from any citation we write.
Yeah. So they're not telling you better make 50 or et cetera?
No, they're not, no.
All right.
We're just expected to go out there and enforce the traffic laws and do the job.
Yeah. Well, folks, the old idea is to be safe, do whatever you can, help them out. They're your friends. Any law enforcement officer are your friends, folks. So do whatever you can to help them. Thanks for joining us on the Sam Lesante Show. We'll see you next time.